Okay, hello. So we were asked to put a title on something, and I'm kind of have a problem with that. I was joking with him. I'm not a creative writer type person. I like taking pictures and doing stuff like that, but I was an actress in high school. I have that creativity, but it is not in a free mind kind of way. I was always very difficult at that. I needed structure, and so when she asked me to come up with a title, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, I'm not even sure what I'm going to be babbling these people about. And I was like, you know what? We'll start with what my kids always ask me. My favorite question that my kids ask, because I'm sure you guys realize students ask teachers the most random questions, like the most random things. And it always makes me giggle, but my favorite is, Miss, why do you want to be a teacher? And I think that's my favorite question because I love their expressions when I tell them, I didn't. In fact, I will tell you, teaching is the only career that I said I would absolutely never do. To be perfectly frank with you, I said I would sooner dance on a pole.
Yes.
I just want to express to you the level of distaste I had towards teaching. That I literally thought that there was better career opportunities in nudity than there were inside an education facility. And I came by that, I felt very justly, because the opposite of Coach McLean, I come from an entire family of teachers. Both my parents are now retired teachers. My younger sister is now a teacher and a coach. On my father's side, 2 of his 3 siblings are in education. His mother was a teacher. On my mother's side, 1 of her 2 siblings is in education, and both their wives are. And my grandfather was actually worked in the administration building here for Humble ISD. And I saw them struggle and bring home papers, and my poor mother has taught English her whole life. So I grew up with an English teacher from middle school. She taught middle school all the way through 7th through 12th grade. And I would remember her coming home with these like milk crates filled with manila envelopes that were research papers. And I was like, oh my God, why would you ever do that? Like, what would make you think this is a good idea? Like, that's insane. And she would spend so much time on them. And I knew that she was spending 3 times as much time grading it as this child had probably spent putting it together. As a teenager especially, I knew that they were not spending the time on them that she was. And it just frustrated me. Because I'm like, why do you care? They don't care. I know they don't care. They're my classmates. I know they don't care. I don't care. And they're like, oh, you know, whatever. And we never really talked about it. We never talked about why they became a teacher or kind of what was going on. It was just kind of whatever. I was never going to do that, by golly. I was not dumb enough to go into what we considered the family profession, jokingly. You know, most people, that's lawyers or doctors. Not in my family. We all sit around and tell kid stories. It makes for interesting family gatherings, though. We've got some great stories over the years. But so I didn't want that. I was going to be in business. I was going to be this fancy businesswoman. I had no idea what that meant because no one in my family had ever worked in business. I knew nothing about the professional world because I didn't exist there. No one in my immediate life anywhere existed there. A lot of my friends' parents were teachers. You know, we all kind of ran in that same crowd. And so I didn't really know. I did theater and, you know, had fun and hung out. Well, that meant I kind of hung out with older kids, and I quickly realized in high school that pretty much after your first semester of college, high school doesn't matter so much. And I didn't want to go to a big school because I went to a huge high school. I'm sorry, I actually graduated from Kingwood High School. Apologize. And I didn't want that experience in college. I wanted to go somewhere smaller. I wanted to feel connected to something. I didn't want to disappear in this number. So unlike my classmates, I had no interest in going to the big schools. I wanted to go somewhere little. And ironically, I didn't care much about school. And I was one of those bratty kids that was good at it without really having to try. And so as long as I kept my A's, my parents didn't really push me a whole lot. You know, they didn't bother me as long as I kept my GPA up. And so I didn't have to worry about anything. My 4 best girlfriends, like 1 was number 7 in our class of 851 and went to Rice. So, I mean, it's not like I was hanging out with delinquents. I mean, I was hanging out with this really super focused, good group, clean-cut group of girls. When it came time to go to college, you know, they're all looking at what majors they offer and what do they want to do and where is their life going to take them, and they had plans for themselves and they knew what colleges they wanted to go to and they had all set out to do this. I didn't have a clue. I didn't even really want to go to college. I just knew you were supposed to. And I knew that if I didn't, my parents would be really mad at me. So I figured I probably should go. So my senior year of high school, after doing theater since I was like 8 years old, we had a different director, and she ruined the experience for me. She took something that I absolutely cherished and made me hate it. And so I spent my whole life assuming I would do something related to that, and suddenly I loathed it. I didn't like being on the stage, I didn't like being in the room, I couldn't have anything to do with it. So I was like, okay, well now what? So I'm like literally flipping through like majors that are offered at schools, and I see one called communication. And I'm like, hey, that sounds interesting, I'm a good talker. I like people, I'm gonna major in that. And so I decide I'm going to be a communication major. I have no idea what this means. And I decided I wanted to go to a small school. And so I started looking around, and I picked SFA because they had a really high-ranked communication school, and I had good enough grades to get in without having to take my SAT again, which I had forgotten about until the night before. And I didn't have to write an essay. Yep, that is how I picked my college of choice.